Hey, get out of the car, now! Officer Brent Callahan's roar cut through the quiet Saturday morning like a gunshot. The grocery store parking lot froze. A mother in a faded denim jacket, Ava Coleman, 38, black, exhausted and carrying the weight of the world, blinked in shock as the officer stormed toward her SUV, hand on his holster, face twisted with contempt. "You think you can just park wherever you want?" he barked. "These spaces aren't for people like you. Move it, now!" Shoppers turned. Some whispered. A few smirked. Ava's hands began to shake on the steering wheel. She had parked in the last open reserved spot because her 7-year-old son Malik had been coughing nonstop in the back seat, clutching his stomach in pain. She needed the pharmacy, fast. But the officer didn't care. He leaned into her open window, breath hot with rage. "License!" She handed it over with trembling fingers. He snatched it. "You ignoring me? You think rules don't apply to you? This spot is for high-level state personnel, not—" He stopped, looking her up and down with a sneer that said exactly what he meant but didn't dare finish. "Not people like you." Malik whimpered from the back seat. "Mommy, it hurts." Ava turned to comfort him, just for a second. Callahan slammed his palm against the door so hard the SUV shook. "Don't turn away from me when I'm talking!" Ava flinched so violently she hit her head against the headrest. Gasps echoed around the parking lot. A man filming whispered, "Whoa, that's excessive," but he didn't intervene. Callahan stepped even closer, voice dripping with hostility. "What's in the back, huh? Drugs? Stolen merch? I can search it right now." Ava's heart dropped. "No, officer, it's my son. He's sick. I'm just trying to—" "Don't talk back." He clicked his radio and made sure everyone heard. "Dispatch, I have a suspicious vehicle in a government-reserved space. Possible evasion. Driver is uncooperative." Ava's jaw fell open. "Uncooperative? Officer, I'm—" "Get out of the car!" His voice was a slow, icy threat. Tears filled her eyes. Her son sobbed harder. A small crowd gathered, phones lifted. No one stepped forward. Ava opened the door. Her knees nearly buckled as she stood up. Callahan grabbed her wrist, not enough to injure, but enough to dominate. "Well, well," he said loudly, making sure everyone heard. "Breaking the law and resisting?" A humiliated heat crawled up Ava's neck. She couldn't breathe. Her son cried louder. "Mommy! Mommy!" Callahan looked at Malik with disgust. "Keep that kid quiet. He's disturbing the peace." Ava suddenly felt a strange calm, an ache so deep it burned. She had been disrespected, judged, humiliated her entire life, but not today, not in front of her child. She lifted her chin. "Officer," she said softly, "I told you my son is sick. I parked here for 2 minutes because he could barely breathe. I wasn't breaking any law intentionally." Callahan chuckled. "You people always have excuses." The words hit harder than any slap. Ava wasn't rich. She wasn't powerful. She worked 2 jobs. She was a single mother just trying to survive. But right now, in front of a crowd, she was being treated like trash, and Callahan enjoyed it. He turned to the growing audience. "You see this?" he announced. "This is exactly why we need stricter parking enforcement. The entitlement is insane." A woman muttered under her breath, "She looks terrified. Leave her alone." Callahan shot her a glare, and she shrank back. Ava swallowed hard. Her voice trembled as she tried again. "Officer, please let me get my son his medicine." "You're not going anywhere," he snapped. "Not until we figure out what you're really doing in this spot." He tapped the reserved sign on the pole, savoring every second of this power trip. "For authorized state officials only. Can you read that, or should I sound it out for you?" A few people laughed. Ava's cheeks burned with humiliation. Malik's cough turned into a painful wheeze. "Mommy, I can't breathe!" The sound sliced through her like a knife. She moved toward the back door. Callahan blocked her path. "I said stay put!" Ava's heart thundered. She wasn't afraid for herself anymore. She was afraid for her son. And then, just as Callahan leaned closer, puffing up like a bully about to deliver his victory blow. A black government SUV pulled into the lot. Smooth, silent, tinted windows, official plates. People noticed. Phones lifted again. Callahan smirked. "Oh, good," he said. "Backup is here. They'll love this." The SUV door opened. A man stepped out. A tall man. A confident man. A man with the aura of someone used to being saluted. He wore a charcoal suit, a discreet lapel pin, and a face the entire state had seen on TV. A face instantly recognizable. The parking lot went dead silent. Officer Callahan's jaw slowly unhinged, because stepping out of the SUV, staring directly at Ava, eyes full of concern, warmth, and unmistakable authority, was Governor Elijah Brooks. And the next words he spoke made Officer Callahan's blood run cold. "Ava, are you okay?" The crowd gasped. Phones shot up simultaneously. Callahan's face turned the color of chalk. The governor wasn't finished. He narrowed his eyes, voice sharp enough to cut steel. "Why," he demanded, "is the mother of my chief policy advisor being detained in a parking lot?" A pin dropped. A bird flapped. Somewhere, a shopping cart squeaked. Officer Callahan froze. And for the first time in his career, he had no idea what to say. The moment the officer barked, "Ma'am, step away from the vehicle, now!" the entire parking lot shifted. Conversations clipped off mid-sentence. A shopping cart rattled to a stop. Even a toddler in a nearby stroller stopped crying. It was one of those moments where time thins out, where every eye turns toward the one person who doesn't deserve the shame being thrown at her. Monica Hart froze. She wasn't loud, she wasn't aggressive, she wasn't even parked crooked. She simply stood there, key fob in hand, her son's backpack slung over her shoulder, staring at the officer who had gone from 0 to humiliation in 3 seconds flat. "Sir, I just need a moment, I'm unloading." "I said, step back," he shouted, his voice echoing off the concrete pillars. A few people winced. One woman whispered to her husband, "Why is he yelling at her? She didn't do anything." But the officer didn't care. Because Monica wasn't someone he planned to treat with dignity. She was someone he planned to make an example of. He jabbed a finger toward the sign on the post. "Reserved, state use only, violators subject to tow." "You think rules don't apply to you?" he snapped. "You think you can just park wherever you want because, what, you're in a hurry? Too special to follow the law?" Her throat tightened. "No, officer, I'm just... license, now!" She reached for her purse, hands shaking, but he cut her off again. "No, stop! Put the purse down, slowly." And just like that, a quiet murmur rippled through the watching crowd. It wasn't the officer's voice that triggered it. It was the tone. That familiar, rancid mix of suspicion and supremacy that too many black women knew far too well. A man behind a grocery cart muttered, "This is ridiculous." Someone started recording. Still, Monica kept calm, kept small, kept steady. She'd learned a long time ago that some officers don't see women like her as mothers, professionals, or community members. They see them as problems. "Sir, my son is waiting for me in the car." "Not another word," the officer said, taking a step closer. "Reserved spaces are government spaces, lady. This isn't for shoppers. This isn't for soccer moms. This isn't for..." He stopped, eyes narrowing, looking her up and down like she was something he found at the bottom of his boot. "You know what? Never mind. I'll handle this another way." He reached for his radio, and Monica felt her stomach drop, because she knew what another way usually meant. But before he could even press the button, a black SUV rolled into the lot.
Quiet engine, tinted windows, polished plates with a seal most people didn't recognize, but the officer absolutely should have. The SUV glided toward them and stopped directly behind Monica's car. The crowd's murmurs turned into a hush. The officer puffed out his chest. "Great," he said. "Back up. Maybe they can explain laws to you." Monica swallowed hard. She had no idea backup was exactly what was coming. But not for him, for her. A back door opened, and a polished brown leather shoe stepped out. The officer's smirk faded, because that wasn't backup. That wasn't another officer. That was someone whose arrival made the air feel heavier, like history had just walked onto the asphalt. Monica didn't move. The crowd didn't breathe. And the officer, suddenly pale, whispered, "Wait, wait. Is that... The person stepped fully into view, and the officer's entire face went slack, because standing there was the governor of the state, and he wasn't looking at the officer, he was looking at Monica. With recognition, relief, and something that made every witness straighten their spine.
"Monica," he said warmly. "Sorry I'm late, Mom." For a full 3 seconds, nobody moved. Not the crowd, not Monica, not even the officer, who stood there frozen with his mouth slightly open, like his brain had just blue-screened. "Mom!" The governor had said Mom. A collective gasp rolled across the parking lot like a wave. The woman the officer had been barking at, embarrassing, talking down to like she was a problem, she wasn't just someone. She wasn't just a violator of a reserved spot. She was the mother of the highest-ranking elected official in the entire state, and the officer had treated her like a trespasser, a nuisance, a nobody. The governor didn't even spare a glance at the officer. He walked straight past him, straight toward Monica, with urgency in his steps and concern in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked her quietly. Monica nodded, though her hands were still trembling. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a misunderstanding." Behind them, the officer swallowed hard. He stepped back, then forward, then back again, completely unsure whether to speak, salute, or disappear into thin air. The governor turned, finally acknowledging him, and when he did, his voice carried the weight of office, authority, and a son who had just watched his mother be disrespected in public. "What exactly," he asked slowly, "is going on here?" It wasn't a shout, it wasn't even loud, but the officer reacted like he'd been struck. Governor, sir, I didn't know she was, she was parked in the state reserved. The sign says, I was just enforcing." The governor raised one hand. The officer shut up mid-sentence. "There was no enforcement happening here," the governor said, his voice low but unmistakably sharp. "There was intimidation." The crowd murmured in agreement. A woman called out, "He was yelling at her for no reason." A man holding his phone added, "He told her to put her purse down like she was a criminal." The officer shot the man a panicked look. He hadn't realized so many people were recording. But it was too late. The governor turned back to his mother. "Did he put his hands on you?" "No, no," she said gently. "Just raised his voice, tried to embarrass me." The governor's jaw flexed. Monica saw that expression and placed a calming hand on his sleeve, something only a mom could do. "Don't make a scene," she whispered. "Oh, I'm not." He already made one. He faced the officer again. "What's your name?" The officer hesitated. That was mistake number one. My name is..." "Your name," the governor said, his voice now cold, "would be on the badge you are legally required to keep visible." The man panicked, fumbling for the silver nameplate that had somehow flipped around on his vest. "Officer Trent, sir." "Officer Trent," the governor repeated, each syllable landing like a stone. "Do you often shout at elderly women in parking lots?" Monica winced. "Sweetheart, elderly? Mom, he yelled at you like you were breaking into a car."
Officer Trent's face flushed. I wasn't yelling. I was speaking firmly because she was, I didn't know she was. The governor cut in. That's the issue. You treated her with hostility not because of what she was doing, but because of what she looked like. A few people in the crowd murmured, "Exactly." Another added, "He singled her out." Officer Trent's chest rose and fell in sharp breaths. "Sir, with all due respect, I enforce the rules equally." Equally? Now the governor actually laughed, a dangerous sound. "Then explain something to me," he said. "2 cars down. That sedan has been parked in the same lot for 20 minutes. That man loading his groceries also in a reserved space. You ignored both of them." Officer Trent turned, spotted the vehicles, and visibly paled. He hadn't noticed. Or rather, he hadn't cared, because neither driver looked like Monica. I didn't see them," he stammered. "But you saw the black woman, though," someone in the crowd called out. "Loud and clear," another added. Monica watched Officer Trent shrink beneath the weight of every eye in the lot. For a moment, she actually felt sorry for him. But then she remembered the way he'd barked at her, how his hand had hovered near his belt, how he refused to let her explain, how eager he was to escalate things. She remembered the embarrassment, the fear, the humiliation, and the sympathy dissolved. The governor exhaled slowly, then tapped his phone. "Sir, please don't. I can explain. I was just—" "You don't need to explain to me," the governor said. "You'll explain it to internal affairs." Officer Trent's knees looked like they might give out. Internal affairs? Sir, please, if I could apologize." The governor stepped closer to him. "You're apologizing because you were caught, not because you understand what you did." Officer Trent opened his mouth, but the governor wasn't finished. "You humiliated my mother in public. You profiled her. You escalated a harmless situation into a spectacle." He leaned in. "You don't get to hide behind procedure when what you did was personal." Monica, ever the calm heart in a storm, reached for her son's hand. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "I don't want his life ruined." The governor looked at her, love and conflict knotted together on his face. "Mom, he tried to ruin yours." The crowd went quiet. Everyone felt the weight of those words. The officer bowed his head. The governor placed a hand on Monica's shoulder. "Let's go home," he said softly. But as they turned to leave, someone in the crowd called out, "Governor Hart, are you going to let him keep his job?" The officer froze. The governor paused mid-step and slowly turned his head. His voice was calm. The governor didn't even make it 3 steps before a swarm of voices erupted behind him. "Governor, he needs to be held accountable. That officer was out of line. Don't let him get away with treating people like that." Phones were still up, cameras rolling. The moment had gone from a small parking lot confrontation to something bigger, heavier. A public reckoning. Monica felt all those eyes on her, but she stood tall. For the first time since the confrontation began, she wasn't shaking. She wasn't afraid. She was seen. But Officer Trent, he looked like a man whose world was collapsing in real time. He wiped sweat from his forehead with a trembling hand as the governor turned back toward him. "Officer Trent," the governor said, voice steady. "Remove yourself from the scene." The officer blinked. "Sir?" "Hand over your badge and service weapon, now." A gasp moved through the crowd like a shiver. The officer stood frozen for a full second too long. "Sir, I don't think that's—" The governor stepped closer, expression razor sharp. "You spoke to her like she was beneath you," he said quietly. "You threatened her, you demeaned her. And you did all of it in uniform." The whispers around them grew louder. "Take his badge." "That's right. Should have thought of that before screaming at somebody's mama." The governor extended his hand. "Badge," he repeated. Officer Trent's throat bobbed as he swallowed. He reached for the clasp on his vest with fingers that shook, detached the silver shield, and placed it in his palm. Then came the weapon. Removing a firearm in public was humiliating enough. Doing it under direct order from the governor was social death. When Trent passed it over, his eyes were shiny with fear. "Sir, please, this will end my career." The governor didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Your behavior ended your career, not me." A woman near the back murmured, "Amen." Another added, "That part." The governor handed the firearm to his security and nodded. "Escort him to Internal Affairs headquarters, now." Two plainclothes officers approached. Trent looked back at the crowd, at all the phones watching, like he was hoping someone, anyone, would defend him. No one did. He was marched toward a black SUV, head hanging, eyes red. And the crowd? They applauded. They actually applauded. Monica had to cover her mouth, shocked. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't cruelty. It was validation. For every time she'd been dismissed, overlooked, spoken to like she was an inconvenience, today, for once, someone saw the truth. But the moment wasn't over, not by a long shot. The governor turned to the crowd, pulling himself into the posture of a leader addressing a city, a crisis, a wound. "What you all witnessed today," he began, "shouldn't happen to anyone." People quieted. Even the air seemed to still. This was not about a parking spot, not about a misunderstanding. This was about power misused. He gestured toward the reserved space Monica had pulled into. "These spots are for state officials on duty. My driver dropped me off moments before this incident. My mother was simply picking me up. She belonged here." Someone in the crowd said, "He didn't even let her speak." Another replied, "He talked to her like she was a criminal." The governor nodded. "This is exactly why we need reform, and why I will not tolerate discriminatory policing, not in this state." A ripple of reaction moved through the people. Some nodded, some murmured agreement, a few clapped. But Monica could see it in her son's eyes. This moment wasn't just public policy, it was personal. He took a breath, steadying himself. "I've already contacted Internal Affairs," he continued. "There will be a full review of Officer Trent's conduct, not just today, but his entire record." That made the crowd react. "Oh, he's done. Bet he's got other complaints. Good, 'bout time somebody cleaned house." But the governor didn't stop there. "And while the investigation proceeds," he added, "I want every witness here to know your voices matter." He pointed at the phones. "Every video, every angle, every recording will help ensure accountability." People lifted their cameras higher, energized. Officer Trent, now seated in the SUV with his face buried in his hands, was witnessing the beginning of his professional obituary. The governor turned back to his mother. "Mom," he said gently, "let's go." But Monica didn't move. Not yet. She looked at the crowd, at the people who had stood with her, recorded for her, spoken up for her when the officer tried to silence her. Then she looked at her son. "Honey, can you give me a moment?" He blinked. "Of course." Monica took a slow breath, stepped forward, and addressed the crowd herself. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. "Thank you," she said, hand pressed over her heart. "Thank you for not looking away." People murmured warmly. Some smiled. "I've had men like him speak to me like that my whole life, ever since I was a little girl. And most of the time, no one says anything." The crowd quieted, moved. She wasn't just speaking to them. She was speaking to every person who had ever been ignored, belittled, or judged at first glance. "But today," she said, voice wavering with emotion, "I saw something different." She gestured around. "You stood up. You spoke up. You cared." A woman near the front wiped her eyes. Another whispered, "Bless her." Monica's chin lifted. "And that," she said,
is how the world starts to change. The crowd applauded again, this time not for humiliation, but for hope, for her, for the moment they created together. The governor stepped to her side, pride softening his features. "Ready to go home now?" he asked gently. Monica nodded. "Yes, baby." They walked toward the car. But just before Monica reached the door, a news van screeched into the lot, brakes screaming.
A reporter jumped out, camera already rolling. "Governor Hart! Mrs. Hart!" she called. "We heard there was an incident. Is it true an officer verbally assaulted the governor's mother? And is it true he's been suspended on the spot?" Every head turned. Officer Kellen didn't move at first. He just stood there squinting at the governor like the older man had crawled out of a TV screen. His jaw hung crooked, his confidence evaporating in real time. 30 seconds ago, he was king of this parking lot. Now he looked like a kid being called into the principal's office. Governor Holloway closed the distance slowly, never raising his voice, never breaking eye contact with the man who just screamed inches from a mother's face. "Officer," the governor said calmly, "I heard you put your hands on her." The parking lot went silent again. The crowd grew. A few people recording stepped closer. The mother, Ray, stood frozen, her heartbeat pounding so loud she felt it in her throat. Officer Callan swallowed hard. "Sir, I didn't know she was with you." "And that changes what, exactly?" the governor asked. Kellen opened his mouth, then shut it. He had no answer. Governor Holloway turned toward Ray. "Ma'am, are you all right?" His voice softened immediately, the tone of someone used to listening more than speaking. Ray nodded, still processing the fact that the most powerful man in the state knew her name and was looking at her like she mattered. Her son, Malik, slid behind her, clutching her waist. "Mom, what's happening?" She placed a reassuring hand over his. "It's all right, baby. We're okay." But Ray's hands were trembling because she knew one thing. When police lose face in public, the situation can flip dangerous fast. The governor saw it too. He raised a hand slightly, signaling his security detail. Instantly, 3 plainclothes officers stepped from the parked SUV, forming a protective half-circle around Ray and Malik. Their movements were smooth, rehearsed, silently communicating, "You're safe now. No one touches you again." Kellen stiffened, eyes darting between the governor and the security detail. His bravado was fully gone. His cheeks burned red underneath his pale skin. "Sir, I didn't know she was with you." "And that changes what, exactly?" Kellen opened his mouth, then shut it. He had no answer. Governor Holloway turned toward Ray. "Ma'am, are you all right?" His voice softened immediately, the tone of someone used to listening more than speaking. Ray nodded, still processing the fact that the most powerful man in the state knew her name and was looking at her like she mattered. Her son, Malik, slid behind her, clutching her waist. "Mom, what's happening?" She placed a reassuring hand over his. "It's all right, baby. We're okay." But Ray's hands were trembling because she knew one thing. When police lose face in public, the situation can flip dangerous fast. The governor saw it too. He raised a hand slightly, signaling his security detail. Instantly, 3 plainclothes officers stepped from the parked SUV, forming a protective half-circle around Ray and Malik. Their movements were smooth, rehearsed, silently communicating, "You're safe now. No one touches you again." Kellen stiffened, eyes darting between the governor and the security detail. His bravado was fully gone. His cheeks burned red underneath his pale skin. "Sir, I was just enforcing parking regulations. This woman refused to comply." Ray's head jerked slightly. "Refused?" she repeated quietly. "I told you I had someone in the car. You wouldn't let me speak. You called me a—" Her voice caught. She wasn't someone who cried easily, but humiliation has a different burn, a deeper one. The governor's expression hardened. "What did you call her?" he asked, eyes narrowing. Officer Kellen froze. He hadn't realized Ray had been recording him the moment he raised his voice earlier. She lifted her phone now and pressed play. His own voice burst out of the speaker. "Move the car, lady. I don't care who you think you are. These spots aren't for people like you." People like you. The words echoed like gunshots through the lot. Children at the bus stop turned. Cars slowed down. Phones lifted again. The governor's jaw clenched, a barely controlled storm beneath his skin. "Officer Kellen," he said slowly, each word heavier than the last, "is that how you speak to mothers picking up their children?" The officer tried to salvage what little authority he had left. "Sir, I didn't know she had a child." "You didn't ask." The governor stepped closer. "You didn't listen, and you didn't look." Kellen's breathing quickened. "Governor Holwyn, with all due respect, I'm sure she misunderstood." The governor stopped him with a single raised hand. "It's not up for interpretation." He looked at Ray again, not at her clothes, not at her skin, at her. "Ma'am," the governor said gently, "I have your word this will not be swept under any rug." Ray blinked rapidly, as tears pricked the corners of her eyes, not from fear this time, but from the rare shock of being publicly defended. She whispered, "Thank you." The governor nodded once, then turned back to the officer. "Badge number," he demanded. Kellen hesitated, then rattled it off, voice shaking. People around them murmured. Someone said, "He's done." Another whispered, "Good. About time somebody checked him." But then, like every story that gets messy before it gets right, panic flashed across Kellen's face. "Governor, please, don't ruin my career over a misunderstanding." Holloway's voice stayed calm, almost too calm. "You did that yourself the moment you forgot who you serve." The air thickened with tension. The security detail stepped forward instinctively. But Ray did something no one expected. She stepped between them. "No," she said quietly. Everyone froze. Even the governor looked surprised. She wiped a tear from her cheek and faced Officer Kellen, not with softness, but with the spine of steel. "Accountability," she said slowly, "doesn't mean destruction." Her voice steadied. "You yelled at me in front of my son. You grabbed my arm. You tried to embarrass me and make an example of me, and you didn't care who I was until you found out I knew someone powerful." She paused. "But this isn't about revenge. It's about respect. For every mother you've talked down to, for every person you didn't listen to because you thought you didn't have to." The parking lot held its breath. Kellen stared at her, stunned. She finished with, "Don't apologize to the governor. Apologize to my son." The governor's eyebrows lifted. The crowd murmured. Kellen's throat bobbed as he swallowed. He turned and looked at Malik, a 12-year-old boy with wide eyes, clutching his mother's shirt. I'm sorry, kid," the officer muttered, voice cracking. "I shouldn't have talked to your mom like that. I was wrong." Malik stared at him, then nodded once. Ray placed a hand on her son's back, steadying him, but it was her heart that steadied. The governor stepped forward again, quieter now. "Officer Kellen, you will report to my office at 0800 tomorrow. You'll attend mandatory training and review. Effective immediately, you're suspended until further instruction." The officer's shoulders sagged in relief. He wasn't fired, but he'd been humbled in the most public way possible. The governor then turned to Ray, voice warm again. "Let's get Malik inside. We have a long meeting, and I'd like you both to join us." "Both?" Ray blinked. "Me?" "Yes," the governor said simply. "You're the reason I'm here today." And just like that, the power in the parking lot shifted completely. The woman who'd been belittled was now being honored. The officer who'd barked orders was listening. And the governor, the man everyone feared,
was defending a mother like she was family. Ray took her son's hand and walked beside the governor toward the bank doors. Phones recorded the entire walk, and every viewer who later watched that clip would remember one thing: power doesn't reveal character. Moments like this do.
The moment the door to the courthouse's back room slammed shut, the air snapped with tension. Officer Rourke stood stiff, arms locked across his chest like he was barricading himself behind his own ego. Sweat clung to his temples, not from the heat, but from the fact that the governor was now in the same room with him, and he finally understood he'd done more than yell at some lady in a parking lot. Maya stood beside Governor Mitchell, her arms trembling, not with fear, but with the kind of anger that builds after being humiliated in front of strangers for simply trying to pick up her child. Recorder phones were lined on the table. Officers from Internal Affairs stood like silent statues along the wall. Even the fluorescent lights hummed with pressure. Governor Mitchell stepped forward, slow, steady, controlled. "Officer Rourke," he said, voice low, dangerously calm. "Do you know who you yelled at today?" Rourke swallowed. I didn't yell. I was enforcing a protected stop." The governor didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His authority hit like a door slamming. "You didn't enforce anything," he said. "You bullied a mother in front of her child." Rourke's lips twitched, desperate to fight back. "Sir, with respect, she parked in a restricted—" "You lied!" The governor's voice cracked like a whip. Everyone froze. Rourke blinked. I lied?" The governor nodded to the woman from Internal Affairs. She clicked a remote. A video played. Not the one from Maya's phone, not the one circulating on social media. A dashcam clip. And this one had sound. The entire room listened as Rourke screamed at Maya before she even stepped out of the car. Listened as he mocked her for being confused about where important people park. Listened as he threatened a tow truck he had never called. Listened as he bragged about teaching people a lesson. Rourke turned pale, ghost white. He looked around the room, searching for even one sympathetic face. None. Not even his union rep would look at him. Then Governor Mitchell spoke again, voice quiet but scalding hot. "Officer Rourke, the parking spot you claimed was reserved—" He stepped closer. "It isn't reserved for me." Rourke's eyebrows twitched. "Sir, I don't understand." "It's reserved," Mitchell said, "for the director of the Child Safety Task Force." A beat of silence. Maya slowly lifted her chin. Rourke blinked at her, then blinked again. Maya. Maya Kingston, director of the Child Safety Task Force, appointed last year. The woman whose face had been on every statewide newsletter. The woman responsible for rewriting policies on how officers must handle interactions involving minors. A task force Rourke had been required to attend training for. His training logs flashed on the screen. He hadn't signed in to any of the sessions, skipped every one, blamed schedule conflicts that apparently involved long lunch breaks and gym time. Now the truth wasn't just exposed, it was set on fire and projected on a wall. The room felt like it was shrinking around him. I should have recognized you," Rourke muttered, voice cracking, panic leaking through. I didn't know." Maya stepped forward, and for the first time since the parking lot incident, she spoke. "I didn't need you to recognize me," she said. "I just needed you not to abuse me." Her voice wasn't loud. It was steady, calm, cold. Governor Mitchell folded his arms. "You yelled at a task force director, Officer Rourke. But worse, you yelled at a mother picking up her child, in direct violation of the very policies she helped create." Rourke's knees nearly buckled. Internal Affairs stepped forward. "Officer Rourke, your badge and gun now." His world collapsed. Hands shaking, he placed both items on the table. A hollow clatter echoed through the room. This wasn't suspension. This wasn't paid leave. This was the beginning of the end. Rourke looked up, eyes wide, chest rising and falling like he was drowning. But his voice cracked. I didn't know. Maya tilted her head slightly. That's the problem. You didn't care. Silence, cold, sharp, unforgiving. Governor Mitchell opened the door. Let's go, Maya. She walked out with her head high. Rourke stayed behind, alone, surrounded by the truth he'd tried to bury. And the worst part? The world outside already knew. The backroom confrontation was now the least of his problems. Because the hidden truth wasn't just that Maya held a powerful position, it was that the entire state was about to see exactly who he had humiliated. By sunrise the next morning, Officer Rourke's career wasn't just in trouble, it was global news. The video of him screaming at Maya had blown through the internet like wildfire. But now there were two videos circulating. One, Maya's original recording from the parking lot. Two, the leaked dash cam footage showing everything Rourke tried to deny. Together, they painted a picture so bad, so undeniably humiliating, that even people who usually defended officers online were shifting uncomfortably in the comments. Across every platform, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X, hashtags were trending. Hashtag Justice for Maya. Hashtag Protect Mothers, Not Egos. Hashtag Governor in the Parking Lot. Hashtag Officer Rourke. People in the comments weren't just angry, they were furious. Creators stitched the videos with captions like, "How do you yell at a woman this calmly picking up her child? He was so confident until the governor stepped out of the car. He skipped every training session she created. You can't make this up." Memes appeared within hours. One viral meme showed Rourke screaming with the caption, "You can't park here!" Next panel, Governor Mitchell stepping out of the car like a superhero. Actually, she can. Another post, a split screen, showed Maya looking calm on the left and Rourke mid-tantrum on the right. One of these people is a director, the other is unemployed. Even late-night shows picked it up. Trevor Noah-like monologue clips went viral. Imagine yelling at a mom for parking in the right spot, then finding out your boss's boss's boss is in the back seat. That's not just an L, that's the whole alphabet. Rourke's name was everywhere. Not in praise, not in support, but in disbelief. The press conference that broke the internet. By noon, the governor announced a televised press conference. People skipped lunch to watch. Teachers played it in classrooms. Hospital workers streamed it between rounds. Even people overseas tuned in. The podium was set up in front of the Capitol. Dozens of news cameras glared like spotlights. Microphones crowded the stand. Then, Maya walked out first. The crowd gasped. She was calm, composed, unshaken. The governor followed, standing beside her like a shield. Flashes exploded from cameras. The world leaned in. Governor Mitchell took the microphone. Yesterday, he began, a mother was yelled at, threatened, and publicly humiliated by someone entrusted to serve her. The crowd murmured angrily. He continued. She was following the law. She parked legally. She showed respect. She showed patience. She showed dignity. A pause. None of that was returned to her. Reporters scribbled frantically. And before anyone asks, yes, he added, I was in the car and I watched the entire incident unfold. Gasps. He gestured toward Maya. This is Maya Kingston, director of the Child Safety Task Force, a woman who has dedicated her career to protecting families, women, children, and the communities officers like Rourke are sworn to serve. Cameras zoomed in on Maya's face. And yet, he continued, She was treated like she didn't belong, like she was a problem, like she was invisible. Silence fell across the crowd. Then he dropped the line that went almost instantly viral. Harassment is unacceptable. Abuse of authority is unacceptable. Bullying mothers is unacceptable. Not in this state, not in any state. The crowd erupted. People watching online began clipping the speech before he even finished. When the governor stepped aside, people held their breath. Maya approached the microphone slowly, hands steady, voice calm. "I'm not here because of my title. I'm here because what happened to me happens to moms every day. Moms without a badge. Moms without a title. Moms without someone in the back seat who can step out and change everything." A ripple spread through the crowd. "I don't want special treatment," she continued. "I want fair treatment for every mother, every father, every child, every citizen who just wants to get through their day without being threatened by someone who's supposed to protect them." People started cheering. Her final line went even more viral than the governor's. "I didn't speak up because I'm the director. I spoke up because I'm a mom." The fallout. Within minutes, Rourke's badge was permanently revoked. Multiple complaints filed against him were reopened. The police department announced mandatory retraining, designed by Maya. The Attorney General opened an inquiry into misconduct patterns in the district. Celebrities tweeted support. News outlets ran with the headline, "Mother humiliated by officer, governor breaks silence." And Maya? She became a symbol. Not of power, not of politics, but of something much more relatable. A mom who fought back and won.
Officer Rourke spent the first 24 hours after the scandal hiding. Not suspended, not reassigned, hiding. His face was plastered across every news thumbnail, every reaction video, every comment thread dripping with disbelief and anger. People weren't just criticizing him, they were analyzing every second of the footage he tried so hard to deny. Clips circulated of him leaning into Maya's window like she was beneath him, slamming his hand on her car, threatening arrest for a non-existent violation, mocking her tone, scoffing when she said, "My child is waiting." Some viewers slowed the video down to catch every micro-expression of arrogance. Others turned it into commentary. Look how confident he was, like he owned the pavement she parked on. This is the face of someone who's never been checked. Watch how fast his posture collapses when the governor steps out. Rourke's entire reputation, one he had built on intimidation, not respect, collapsed overnight. By late afternoon, Rourke's department faced so much pressure that they urged him to release a public apology. But Rourke was furious. His pride was bleeding, his ego was bruised, and his apology reflected it. He filmed it himself, at home, in uniform, though he no longer had the right to wear it, with his living room blinds half closed behind him. He hit record, and the moment he opened his mouth, people knew he messed up. "My actions," he began stiffly, "were taken out of context." Oh, that sentence alone sent the internet into orbit. He continued. The woman in question, Maya, appeared confrontational. I believed she was parking illegally and... The clip stopped there in edits because creators couldn't resist adding captions like, "Bro, we saw the video." She was literally sitting calmly. Appeared confrontational where? But he wasn't done digging. He sighed dramatically and added, "Look, mistakes were made on both sides, and that was it. The moment that set the comment sections on fire. Mistakes were made on both sides? She was picking up her child, not charging the capital. Sir, you yelled like a WWE announcer. He's apologizing like he got caught stealing gum, not abusing authority." And then the final nail.
I hope the public understands how difficult this job is and how stressful things can get when citizens don't cooperate. Citizens don't cooperate. People clipped that line and replayed it on dramatic background music. Memes exploded. One viral duet. Left screen, Maya sitting politely, hands on the wheel. Right screen, Rourke screaming like his blood sugar dropped. Caption, non-cooperative citizen? Commenters were brutal. He's not sorry, he's sorry he lost his job. Apology speedrun, any percentage, failure. Man recorded a hostage video holding himself hostage. Within 2 hours, the department deleted his apology from their official page, but the internet already had it saved. 1,000 copies, 1,000 reactions, and each one made him look worse. By the next morning, the department held an emergency press briefing. The chief's face was tight, like he hadn't slept. He said, "We do not condone Officer Rourke's behavior, nor do we condone his attempted statement." Attempted. Social media loved that word. Then came the line that would haunt Rourke forever. Officer Rourke is terminated effective immediately and barred from law enforcement employment statewide. Statewide, not just fired, blacklisted. Reporters exploded into questions. Will he face charges? Was this the first complaint? What reforms will be made? The chief's tense answer? That information is being forwarded to the Attorney General. People watching online screeched in delight. Creators made countdown videos, day 1 of waiting for his charges. That night, Rourke tried one last thing, one desperate swing at sympathy. He posted on his private Facebook account, "I dedicated 17 years to serving ungrateful people. One misunderstanding and they turn on you." Screenshots leaked instantly. Someone commented, "Misunderstanding? You nearly made a toddler watch you arrest his mom."
Another wrote, "Bro, the governor saw everything. That's not a misunderstanding, that's karma." And the most viral comment of all, "Serve and protect who exactly?" His post turned his final few supporters against him. Even other officers distanced themselves. By midnight, Rourke deleted his account entirely. But the internet had already immortalized him. While Rourke spiraled downward, Maya's life went the opposite direction. She was invited to speak on multiple news networks. Moms groups across the country praised her composure. Community leaders requested her input on reform committees. The governor appointed her to lead a new statewide training program. She received hundreds of letters from mothers who had felt powerless too. Her story didn't make her famous. It made her a symbol of dignity in the face of unjust authority. And the final clip that went viral, the clip that closed the chapter forever, was recorded outside her home. A reporter asked, "Do you forgive Officer Rourke?" Maya paused. She looked directly into the camera. Calm, steady, unbreakable. "I hope," she said softly, "that one day he learns what real strength looks like. Because screaming at mothers isn't strength. Protecting them is." The clip hit 12 million views in 24 hours. And just like that, Maya's voice replaced Rourke's roar. Her strength replaced his ego. Her dignity replaced his violence. The story ended not with his downfall, but with her rise.